guys, so today we're going to talk about how to play outside. And the secret to playing outside is actually pretty easy. It's just hard to really integrate into your lines, into your phrases, and make sound good. So there are two things we're going to talk about. One, how does playing outside work? How do you do it? And two, how to make it sound good. And I find the secret to that is tension and release. So we're going to talk about all of that today. Let's jump into it. All right, so as I mentioned, it's really not that difficult to understand the concept of playing outside. Sometimes people get caught up in thinking, what's wrong, what's right? And the reality is, it's just what you like. It's the amount of tension that you like. Now, the trick is that you really have to commit to that tension, and you really have to clearly embellish the sound that you are playing that is outside. So look, really simple. If you're playing on a G7 and you're going to C major 7, instead of playing the G7, you could play an A flat 7, which is going to be very tense because it's up a half step. You could play an F sharp 7, which is also going to create a lot of tension because it's down a half step from where you're playing. And with both of these, you'll see that all the notes in the scale, there isn't a lot in common. Now, you could also go to a tritone away. That's going to have a couple things in common. It's going to have the third and the seventh. So you'll see with all of these, there are some common notes, but very few. So that means that when you have way more tense notes that are outside of the harmony than you have inside notes, you're going to be playing outside. So remember, as I said, it's pretty straightforward. The secret to playing outside, not too hard. It's just being familiar with what your outside options are going to be when you want to play outside. However, what is hard is to structure this into your lines. How do you work it into your phrases? So what we're going to do today is we're going to check out a bunch of phrases that I've written for a new book. This ebook is another PDF package download that we've got available at the jazzlessonvideos.com website. And what it's called is 64 inside-outside phrases. Now here's what that means. So a lot of people refer to the musical technique of creating tension and release as being inside-outside playing. The reason for that being you're playing inside the harmony and then you're playing outside the harmony. Now, what I find sounds best is when you play inside the harmony to start, then you go outside of the harmony in the middle, and then you rein it back in at the end of the phrase to play inside again. That is kind of the magic trick of how to play outside and how to make it sound good. So now, of course, it's a matter of personal taste for how much you want to play outside, and it's subjective how much you like when other players play outside or how exactly they do it. Totally subjective, a matter of personal taste. However, I find that it's a really, really useful skill in your playing to be able to do this technique of starting inside, playing outside in the middle, and then resolving. So that's how I've structured all the phrases from this new PDF, and that's what we're going to check out. So there are four things that I think it's really good to think about when you're structuring your inside-outside phrases, and those four categories are going to be what we use to analyze the phrases that we're going to check out today. So the first category is going to be where do you go outside, and for how long do you go outside? Where do you create the tension in terms of the harmonic rhythm in the phrase? And what you're going to notice today is we're going to do a lot of pivoting outside in the second bar of a 4-bar phrase. That way we're pivoting outside in the middle. The second category is going to be what sound do you think about for the substitution? What sound are you going to use to go outside? So specifically, are you going to do a half step up or a half step down or a tritone away? What harmonic device will you use? 3 is going to be the voice leading. So we want to use smooth voice leading to get from that inside sound into that outside sound and then back into the inside sound again for the resolution. And the last thing we want to think about is just the clarity of each sound that we use. When you go inside, outside, inside, you really want to be clear harmonically on each sound that you're embellishing because that's going to make it more effective when you go outside and come back inside. It's just going to all sound a lot more clear. All right, so now we're going to analyze some of those phrases from the PDF that I mentioned, and I'm going to talk about those 4 things with each phrase so you can kind of get a hang of how you want to go about doing this. All right, so for the first phrase we're going to check out, it's just going to be on a major 2-5-1. The PDF goes through a variety of really common standard chord progressions that you'll see recycled in hundreds of different standards. Things like major 2/5s, minor 2/5s, 3/6 2/5s, 2/5s to the 4 chord, minor 2/5s from 1 major into the 6 minor, all sorts of things like that. And then there are also some straight 8th grooves with 1 chord vamp type of things to also get the hang of when you're just kind of hanging out in one sound and being able to step outside and come back in that context. All right, so let's start off with this first phrase that I mentioned. This first phrase is a major 2/5-1 phrase. It's one of the major 2/5-1 phrases from the PDF. And let's talk about those 4 elements. So 1, how much are we going outside? Where are we going outside here? So if we look at this first phrase, well, everything is pretty inside. It's all diatonic or acting as approach notes in this first bar. And then right on the downbeat of this second bar, look at that, we've got a different sound. So here we have D flat 7 in the second bar of this phrase. Then we look at where does it resolve. So it resolves just in that third bar. It's just a bar long. It goes back to what we can see as being really harmonious sound in C major. So the tension happens in the second bar. It lasts for 1 bar. Okay, so the second thing we said we were going to talk about was what sound do we use? So as you can see in that second bar, we're using the D flat 7 sound to go outside. That's a tritone away. All right, so the third thing that we said we were going to talk about was the voice leading. So if you look at the end of 4 from bar 1 to bar 2, and the end of 4 from bar 2 to bar 3, both of those are just half steps. And with both of those half steps, we're going from a diatonic note in the previous sound into a diatonic note in the new sound. So we go from the C, which is the 7th on D minor 7, into the root of the D flat 7, landing on bar 2. Then on the end of 4 from the second bar to the third bar, we go from the 11 of this D flat 7 sound into the 5, so really the 4 to the 5 of the C major sound. So you'll notice it's a half step away. That's really solid voice leading, just moving smoothly from one sound to the next. All right, then the last thing we were talking about was being clear with the sound. So you can see in here there's a lot of diatonic notes. It's not like we're doing a lot of chromaticism in between the sounds. You totally could do that if you want, and that can be hip too. But I think it's really good to practice just being able to be clear with one sound to the next and then back into that original sound. So from D minor 7 to where the phrase resolves, C major 7, it's not actually the same exact chord, but it's totally the same tonal system in that we're starting with a C major tonal system, the D minor being a 2 minor, and we're resolving with 1 in that same tonal system. Okay, so enough chit chat. Let's hear what it sounds like. All right, so that right there was a clip from the PDF package. This PDF package, you can get it. Jazz lesson videos. That comes with a link to videos of me playing all of these phrases, just so you can hear what I play and just hear how I articulate and phrase everything. All right, so now we're going to check out a minor 2/5-1 phrase from this PDF. So first, let's go through those 4 categories that we talked about. So 1, where do we switch? How long do we switch? So once again here, we go outside on the second bar, and that's going to be a constant theme throughout this PDF because, as I mentioned, I think that's the best way to really get into playing outside. So we're pretty much always going to go outside on the second or the third bar of these phrases. And typically, we're just going to last about a bar because that's what's going to sound really smooth. So for all of these 4 categories, that first category, it's pretty much locked in. All right, so the second category, what do we use to go outside? So here you'll see over that G7 flat 9, we're actually using a B7. So that B7 is going to act as a half step away dominant chord going into the C minor, which is where we resolve. Third thing to think about, voice leading. And once again, you're going to see those half step transitions from bar to bar. And finally, being really clear with the sound, that last category. Look at that first bar. It's all notes inside of Locrian, which is really your home base for a D half diminished 7 or any half diminished 7. Your home base is going to be Locrian. And the last bar, literally only 1 chromatic approach note. The rest of it is diatonic from there. All right, so let's check out what that sounds like. Okay, so we're going to skip past a few of the standard chord progressions used in this PDF, and we're going to go to an interesting one here. This is a chord progression that uses 1 minor and then does a 2-5 down to the flat 6 major, which is a really nice sound. So thinking about those 4 categories, we're staying consistent here. We're pivoting in that second bar. The voice leading of it is very smooth from that first bar to the second bar, diatonic notes leading up into what becomes the 9th, that F sharp on the E7 substitution. Now what's interesting about this one is you'll see moving from that second bar to the third bar, we delay that E7 sound just a little bit by kind of letting it bleed into beat 1 of the A flat major 7 resolution. Now with that delay, we're still using that smooth voice leading. All right, so we've got 2 of the 4 categories analyzed on this one. I skipped over step 2 that we talked about, which was what you're going to use. So here we're using an E7, which is a half step away from the E flat 7 in that 2-5. So that's going to create the tension there. Okay, and then 4th category, the clarity of one sound to another. So you will see super clear 1 approach note used in that first bar, getting from the 4th to the 3rd, the 4th to the minor 3rd. Totally diatonic all the way through in that substitution using the E7. And then once we resolve, pretty much diatonic, just using 1 approach note from the 2nd degree to the root in that A flat major 7. All right, so by now you're gonna notice a theme here. If you wanna play with this nice inside-outside sound, really one of the best ways to do that is just by using dominant chords to go outside. And that is a theme of the whole PDF. We've actually used dominant chords all the way through, since that is really the hippest way to just do it with nice, straightforward, straight-ahead language. All right, so for this last phrase that we're gonna check out a phrase that's written over a minor 7 vamp. So what's hip here is we're gonna see what it sounds like to just go up a half step from this minor 7 vamp. So we're inside C minor, we go up to D flat 7 in that second bar. We let it kind of trail a little bit into the middle of that 3rd bar, still using that D flat 7 sound. And as you notice, smooth voice leading all the way through. So all 4 of these categories accounted for, and let's check out what it sounds like. All right guys, so I hope you've gotten something out of this video. I hope you feel a little bit more comfortable about the idea of how to go about playing outside in your improvising. And if you have any questions or comments about what you would love to hear in future videos, just make sure to leave a comment below. Since I'm not touring as much because of this global pandemic, I will be in town in New York where I'm based, and I will be making some more YouTube content for you guys. So make sure to ask a question in the comments below, and I will get to that as soon as I can. All right, thanks for watching guys. I'll see you next time.